Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to start by saying, all praise and thanks belong to God, the most gracious, most merciful, for allowing me to be here today. This is definitely not an opportunity that I take lightly. I always appreciate an opportunity to share before you guys and talk about some of the important things in business. Dreams do come true is really, and it's an incredible opportunity. What Mr. Rice has put together here is something, one of those rare companies that really, where the person is based it on principles that are truly meant to help people, help you succeed in whatever it is that you may want to do. And to be honest with you, I've known Mr. Rice for several years now. I would say probably over 10, and he's just an incredible guy. Like, I mean, when it comes to business and things like that, I always call him a financial guru. You don't meet many people like that with that type of heart to help people. It's just something that's really, really rare. So I appreciate him for everything that he's done and being a positive influence in my life. What I'm going to talk with you guys about today is something that I feel is important in business. It's really I always call it the philosophical side, so to speak, the thing of being accountable and being teachable, right? Everybody always talks about they want to be successful. That's kind of like standard. That's almost, I don't think if you ask any person in the world if they want to be successful, they would say no. Most people are going to say yeah, unless they're one of the people with tattoos born to lose or something like that. But most people want to be successful. They want to do something that's going to be monumental. At least that's what I think. At least I know for me, I always wanted to be a successful individual. I never wanted to be average. I always wanted to be the best, period. So most people want to do that, but the issue is that there's this little thing called, being disciplined and having that accountability towards the things that you say you want. And I always say that accountability is the breakfast of champions. And the reason why I say that is because it's one thing to talk about stuff. A lot of people, me, I love sports. I love to play basketball. And I can remember I would always talk stuff to people about how bad I was going to beat them. And when I was a teenager, going to their house and taking over their backyard, like that was a pride and joy for me to go to your house and beat you on your court. That was a really good thing. So I always would talk about it, but I would follow it up with action. And I think that in today's society, especially in this new, the world is changing. I feel like I'm really getting old because I started to see things very, very differently. I'm like, man, these guys are strange. So the stuff I see people doing is really, really strange. But a lot of people talk about a lot of things, but they don't follow it up with action. And I think that the accountability is the part that makes you focus on that action. So one of the things that I encourage every person to do is to really identify their dreams, identify what you want to accomplish in your life. Really take a strong moment to think about that. Like if it came to, I know this one book that I love by Brian Tracy. He talks about Eat That Frog. And one of the things about Eat That Frog is that he's talking about how to overcome being a procrastinator. Because I know for me, I used to procrastinate, or I would do things, I would confuse activity with productivity, meaning I would be very, very busy doing things, but the things that I was doing wasn't necessarily moving me forward. So I was active, but I wasn't productive. I wasn't really producing any fruits in my labors. It was just, okay, yeah, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm spinning circles, so to speak, but I'm not really pushing things forward. And one of the things that he taught me how to do was, okay, identify the thing that you have to do, the hardest task of your day, and do that first. So look at that thing and say, if I get this thing done, then everything else is, kind of, if I get to them today, tomorrow, who really cares? But this thing here has to be done. And I look at it in life that way. If you look at your goals with your life, you say, okay, what do I really want to accomplish? If I get this thing done in life, then that makes everything else, okay, I can live with that. I got that one thing done. But make it something that's worthwhile, that's valuable. At the end of those goals that you say you want, you have a positive result. So if a person, we always ask people, what are their goals, what are their dreams? And you have to ask yourself, when those dreams are accomplished, what do you look like at the end of that? Are you free? Are you free to do what you want to do? Do you have time to enjoy it with your family if you have one? Do you have options? To me, is when I think of freedom, I think if I had to encapsulate freedom in one word, it's options. Do you have options? Because a lot of people want different things, but they just don't have the options to do it. It's one of those things where, you can say, hey, I want a nice car, but I don't have the options to buy a nice car, so I got to get a beater. I want a nice house, but I don't have the options to buy a nice house, so I got to stay in a bad neighborhood. A lot of people want things. They want good health, but they can't afford, to eat organic, so now they got to go for the dollar menu. So there's a lot of things that people say that they want, but they don't want to do the things that are necessary to get them from where they are to where they need to be. And that was one of the things that Eat That Frog taught me. He said, focus on, well, he didn't say this, this was my interpretation of the book, focus on the things that are going to make me productive and not just active. And I think that accountability, when you're going to be accountable for something, you're making sure that you're accountable for the productivity, making sure that the actions that you're doing are producing valuable fruits, and you're learning something at the end of the day. That's what I think is important, and specifically when it comes to this business, being teachable. Now, when we say being teachable, a person will say, well, what do you mean by being teachable? This isn't like a class, like we don't have a formal like class setting, you know, but you're learning lessons. You're learning lessons about life. You're learning lessons about people. One of the advantages that I think that we have in this business is that after you've talked to people for so long, you can almost predict what they're going to do. You know, people begin to think that they're so different, but they're really so similar, right? A lot of the you start to recognize patterns really, really quickly. And you can start to see when people are going down, either they're going to do something or not. And everyone, like one of the things that Mr. Banks said that I thought was so profound when he just finished talking, every time a person makes a decision to do something different, there are going to be obstacles that are going to arise. Why? Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. I mean, every time you make a decision to do something great with your life, obstacles come like they were waiting on you to make that decision. Like before when everything was cool, you know, you were just following down that path, and then next thing you know, you make a decision to do something, the lions attack you, you know, out of nowhere. Everybody's coming at you trying to attack you. But that's like the law of success, because you have to prove, you know, and for some people don't want to get spiritual, but it's almost like God is giving you a test to see, do you really want what you say you want? Are you going to be the steward of these things? If you say you want to be wealthy, how do you handle $100, right? Some people can't handle $100. You think I'm gonna give you $100 million? You see what I mean? It doesn't make sense. If you can't handle 100, if you get rid of your money like you're allergic to it, why would you get more? You don't need it. All you do is like opening up a window and just throw it out. That's what I tell people sometimes. I'm like, look, if giving you money is like throwing it out, I'm not going to do that. You see what I mean? And I don't mean me specifically, because I don't, you know, I'm not like God or anything, but you just have to understand, like, you have to use your brain. Now, sometimes you see idiots like, this reality TV stuff, you're like, how did they even get money like that? Like, so you have some anomalies where you're just like, I just don't get it. I don't get what happened there. But sometimes you see stuff like that. You say, okay, well, somehow something happened. But whatever, that's the nature of the society that we live in, where, you know, being an idiot is like cool. So it's a strange place. But anyway, the point is that you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can do to, number one, identify what you want in your life, because then that gives you something to be accountable for. If you don't have a goal or focus, then there's nothing really to be accountable to. You're just kind of floating through life aimlessly. Then when it comes to being teachable, if you have this thing that you say you want and you're serious about it, now you have to learn, what do I need to do in order to get that? Because the person you are today is not going to be the same person by the time you finish those goals that you say you want to accomplish, if they're worthwhile. That's why one of the, you know, and I always talk about Robert Kiyosaki, he had his formula, be, do, have. He said you have to become the person that you want to become, to do the things you need to do, to have the goals you wish to accomplish. So all of those things kind of line up into each other when it comes to being teachable and being accountable. All of these things is kind of like a good formula, because our society is very strange when you think about it. A lot of the things that that they want you to believe really don't tend to lead you towards success. It kind of tends to lead you towards being impulsive. You know, you want to just do, you're all about instant gratification. Like, I was thinking about a few phrases of different marketing companies when they say obey your thirst. You know, when you think of that, that's just like, that's a very baseline impulse. Like, if you're thirsty, you just obey your thirst. Just, so that means go with your desires. If I see it, I want it, do it. So you're not thinking responsibly to say, well, do I have the money to do that? Do I, you know, I see these shoes on sale, shoes or DTE. I want the shoes. You see what I mean? So you're not really being accountable to anything. You're not being responsible. You see shoes, DTE, obey your thirst. I'm getting the shoes. You see what I mean? So you start to see certain things that our society is just pushing us to impulse. And what's another phrase? Just do it. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. So when you just do it, you don't think about nothing. You just doing it. You like, man, forget it. I'm just gonna do it. And again, you're not holding yourself accountable to anything. The point that I have is most of these slogans are just all about you obeying that desire that you have for instant gratification and not taking the time to slow down and say, okay, what can I do